Okay, so there's this insult that's been thrown around for a while now called the NPC, and that stands for non-player character. Now, this phrase originated from video games, where there are some programmed characters in the game for players to interact with. The idea here is that, as the name suggests, they are not people, and so they don't have sentience. They are bots. They might as well be animals. They're just doing what they're programmed to do. They have no awareness of themselves or their surroundings, and the lights aren't on up here, so to speak. To put simply, they're not conscious. Calling someone NPC is an insult because it's implying that the person is mindless when it comes to their actions or their opinions. You say someone is an NPC when their behaviour is predictable in a boring way and doesn't show any signs of a critically thinking mind. Just like how in-game NPCs have a fixed set of dialogue or actions, real-life NPCs lack any form of originality and uniqueness to their actions, to themselves really. Furthermore, just as an in-game NPC is not self-aware, the insult also carries the notion that the person lacks any form of self-awareness or emotional quotient. Finally, the icing on the cake is that a real-life NPC is kind of like a side character in his own life, and that's pretty sad. Now, as with all jokes, they aren't that deep, okay? It's just not that deep, and you shouldn't be taking them too seriously. But for this video, I want to talk about the NPC as a philosophical and psychological subject. The crux of the idea is that the NPC is really about awareness, specifically awareness of your own unconscious thoughts, opinions, and decisions. The reason I say that your opinions are unconscious is because they really do rise up within you, seemingly out of nothing. If you don't believe me, just pay attention to whenever an opinion crosses your mind. It's either because something in real life causes it to surface, or it just presented itself to you out of nowhere. These unconscious opinions are actually influenced by a mix of your judgments, your experiences, your immediate situation, and your emotions. If you're an NPC, it means that you're identified with your unconscious opinions. Whenever they come up, you immediately latch onto them and think that those are your opinions. What an NPC lacks is the awareness of the contrary, that those opinions are more like items passing by you on a sushi belt. They need not be pushed out into the world in the form of speech or actions yet. Notice how the 4 factors I mentioned earlier, your temperament, your past experiences, your immediate situation, and your emotions, are all not part of you. Thus, what you see outwardly from an NPC is someone who blindly follows their immediate instincts without critically evaluating the validity and, arguably more importantly, the ownership of that opinion. I say this because the bulk of our opinions are actually formed by instinctively following the opinions of the role models that we deem trustworthy. This could be a singular person or a group that you identify strongly with. The point is that when these opinions surface, they're not yours. And the NPC doesn't think critically about those opinions before blurting them out. Effectively, it makes them a slave to their primal thoughts, or worse, a slave to their group affiliation. Awareness is a good and desirable thing, because it's associated with a higher state of being. Humans are intellectually superior to animals because we are conscious and aware. Awareness is realizing that you are not your immediate opinions. You are deeper than them. You can think of thoughts as cars in traffic. Instead of you being the driver in the car, you are more like a traffic controller, observing cars passing by and critically choosing which one to let through. To practice this state of mind, try to observe yourself as you go about your daily routines, as if you were watching your body move on its own. Watch your mind generate thoughts and your mouth just say things. Afterwards, notice how you can critique those as if they were somebody else's. Some people naturally experience this phenomenon known as dissociation. This is the act of ascending beyond the mental autopilot that we are usually on. For these moments, you are not an NPC. The truth of the matter is that people are not either NPCs or non-NPCs. Everyone revolves back and forth between a state of autopilot and awareness. Just to different degrees, that's all. Our brains are evolved to be as efficient as possible. So they naturally want to be on autopilot for things that don't require as much critical thinking. It would be exhausting to have to think every single morning while you're brushing your teeth. Why am I brushing my teeth? And should I brush my teeth? And so you do it unquestioningly. And this has been very useful for us for much of our evolutionary history. The danger comes when you hold deep-seated beliefs about things that you didn't think through or evaluate. You see, if you remain in NPC mode for too long, the opinions you mindlessly adopted after they surfaced in your brain will eventually become strong beliefs. Then, if you're not careful, the echo chambers that social media sets up for you will reinforce those beliefs into your being, when they were never really yours to begin with, because you didn't criticize them yourself first. Thus, the real NPCs are those with no aspect of their outward personality or beliefs that are truly theirs. In an article written by Gurwinder titled "Why You Are Probably an NPC," not only does he say that conformists are NPCs because of their trust in the prevailing narrative, he also goes on to call out contrarians for being NPCs as well. He says, and I quote, "Contrarians are quick to call conformists NPCs, but in truth, they are not doing any more thinking. It takes precisely the same amount of effort to disagree with everything the mainstream says as to agree with everything it says. Black sheep may stand out, but they're still sheep. Contrarians are correct that the mainstream consensus is often wrong, but they commit an error when they assume that therefore the fringes must be correct. Truth is not zero-sum. It's possible to disagree with an idiot and still be an idiot." End quote. At the end of the day, our natural tendency is always to revert to being an NPC. What we can strive to do is make sure that for the truly important parts of our lives, we take a step back from our immediate thoughts and thoroughly evaluate them. Ask yourself, why do I think this? Am I well informed on the situation? Are my emotions getting in the way? Am I influenced by what other people think? Is this really what I think? What's the point of doing this? Only after all that should you put it out on display before the world. And if you find yourself being unsure and in need of an autopilot mode, then don't be ashamed to admit that you just might need to be an NPC for the time being, because we're all NPCs to some degree. Thanks for watching.